Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. We're here filming our second installment of the Passing the Leadership Baton Series presented by the Lewis College of Business. My name is Holland Miller. Alongside me is Gwyneth Lacasio, and we have the pleasure of interviewing Miss Phyllis Arnold.
Thanks.
Phyllis, how are you?
I'm delighted to be here.
Well, Phyllis, you have a very impressive resume. Not only are you a Hall of Fame inductee here at Marshall, but also at your alma mater, WVU. You were appointed the banking commissioner under Governor Rockefeller. Also, you were the state president of BB&T Bank, but we're going to rewind and take it back to the very beginning. How did you get your first job at Mellon Bank in Pittsburgh?
I think most of life are funny stories. So the University Career Services posted companies that were willing to interview on campus, and you could sign up. And I didn't have a car, so that was very helpful. I realized it was the 1970 recession. I guess that's kind of normal now, but at the time, recessions, were meaningful and they didn't happen all the time. And we were worried about whether or not a lot of companies would hire. And I was one of two women in the College of Business, and I was majoring in industrial management. So I signed up for an interview with a major steel company. I wanted to do financial analysis, analytics, time motion studies, and basically that interview went kind of like this. Well, the economy's really bad, and may not even be hiring a man this year, but we certainly wouldn't be hiring a woman. So that was my first interview. And I made these things pleasant because what else are you supposed to do? And then my second interview lasted a little longer, but it was with a major retailing chain, and I thought it might really have some prospects. And they said about essentially the same thing, except they were willing to talk for the whole hour, and we shared ideas about the economy and what we thought was going to happen, and what the job market would look like in the next few years. So when I went to sign up for my next interview, Mellon Bank and Trust was interviewed on campus, and I thought that was probably some place that might really give me a sincere audience. And the sign-up sheet was full. So on the day they came to campus, I started interviews at 8, so 8, 9, 10. At 10:55, I knocked on the door, hoping the interview was about over, and the man stuck his head out, and I said, "Can you just step out for a second?" And I introduced myself, and I said, "I wasn't able to get on your roster for an interview, so I'll be back at 12 noon sharp and take you for the hot dog of your choice." So came back, took him to lunch. We had lunch. I don't really remember who paid. And we had a very pleasant discussion. I was invited, I found out later, I was invited to go back to Mellon in Pittsburgh and have a full-fledged interview for the management development program. So basically, I interviewed, I took the Greyhound bus to my interview, and I got the job. That's how I became a banker.
So then your career starts at Mellon Bank in Pittsburgh, but after a period of time you decide to come back to West Virginia, and you go to work for a predecessor of what is now BB&T. And at the time, you're still very early in your career. So could you talk a little bit about the process of coming home and securing a position with a company that would allow you to grow and move forward and build those skills that you would use later in your career?
Yes. First of all, to be fair, I interviewed with every bank in town. I was told by a man that made king-size loans at a local small loan company. He said, "Phyllis, you're not a blue blood, you're not going to get hired by a bank." And I said, "Well, I'm going to keep trying." But basically, when I got to the bank that hired me, the Mellon legacy meant something to them. Mellon was a great bank at that time, and they were very well respected. And so they believed that if I'd had that training program, then I was able to describe in detail financial commercial credit analysis, how I did the analysis, what I believed it brought to the discussion of making a loan, and they were interested in that. So, and then I will admit, on money and pay, I chose to be flexible but said to them I would be flexible in salary, but I wanted their assurance that it wouldn't mean that they felt I was limited in my progression in the bank and progression in my salary. So at that point, I started, the long walk of finding a way to bring value. And I think they realized that I was determined to do everything I possibly could to be a great member of the team, but it was building some credibility. They gave me a financial analysis to do of Chrysler Financial, and I had the statements for Chrysler Financial, and then I asked if I could get the statements of Chrysler Manufacturing. Because when I looked at it, it looked to me like Chrysler, the parent company, was at risk for being in financial trouble. So I recommended we not renew the loan, the line of credit, and that we get out, because if the parent fails, you don't want to be in, at that time $1 million was a lot of money, you don't want to be in a loan to the subsidiary. And the call turned out to be correct. Actually, the U.S. government loaned Chrysler money at that time. The next, did many little analyses, but the next one that was meaningful was a major S&L. They were growing really fast. And all the banks in town were willing to go into this participation loan, and that was common in those days. So basically, I looked at it and laid out the numbers and recommended that we not enter that credit. And the S&L did ultimately go under. Didn't wish them to go under, but they did go under. And so that really made an impact. Finally, senior commercial lending officers started asking me to do an analysis of their corporate borrowers. And that helped tremendously. The other thing is, there was already a named successor to the president who was going to retire fairly soon. And I knew that he was more sophisticated, and that he actually was from the Pittsburgh area, and that he would want a credit analysis and loan review department. And I sensed that that's why I really got the job at that bank. So basically, I wrote up the full plan. I did cost projections based upon my salary, and kind of guessed how to interpolate between being a woman and a man as to what we needed to pay the staff, and just light note. And so I had the square footage, I had the job descriptions, I had guesstimates as to what it would cost. I found out some facts and figures as to what we thought about, we owned our building, so I had to kind of guess rentals, but I figured that out because we were Class A space. And I had it all ready. So on the day when he said, I want you to go back to your desk and start to draw up a plan, I said, well, actually, I've been carrying it around for a while. And I handed him the complete plan. Not long after that, he said, Phyllis, hire your staff. So that was a great day.
Wow.
You really parlayed yourself into being an integral part of that operation, and I'm sure being such a critical resource helped build some relationships. And I'm curious about how you're able to build those strong networks with the people you worked alongside, but also the people you needed some help from.
That's a really good question, because relationships are so key in life, and of course in business. And basically, I think that but you're right, I was supervising a staff. I wanted and needed help and credibility from many people. That all the people were older than I. And so the fun part about relationships, and I want to really say this, you have an opportunity, you don't have a choice on this, that you can succeed and you can fail and you can learn, and as our mothers would say, over and over and over again. And just when you get cocky, you get knocked down again because you became too sure of yourself in a relationship. I think that over time, I read everything I could possibly read. People skills, business skills, how to lead, how to follow, and finally found a concept that's really helped me. Now picture, okay, we've got Camelot, and it's on the top of a hill, and we have this fantastic bridge that comes down, and we have, but just think about a bridge. And then this lovely moat. This moat does not smell, okay? It's really pretty. And it must have a spring in it or something. So when you look at a relationship and you have a job at hand, let's just assume I did a loan review and I found out that this really well-known officer in the bank actually didn't have the papers in the file that showed that there were any legal liens on the collateral. That's a pretty serious situation. And so you think that it's okay, it's my job. Look, not there. So just go tell him not there. Step back and look and think about that bridge. You're walking into that person's territory. You want them to come back with you because what you really know your job is to solve the problem, not just tell him he has a problem. So at that point, you have the opportunity and you have the risk that you can do a great job or you can burn a bridge. Before you just stop, step back, and I always say, put your feet in their shoes and wiggle around a little bit. Make sure you've got the gist of this person. And then all of a sudden you realize you don't have an idea in the world about how to tell this person that. And so you can, getting advice from someone you trust is a good idea, always a good idea. But don't burn the bridge. Because at that age and at that time in your career, you don't have this great credibility list to fall back on. And that officer could say, I'm not dealing with her again. I'm not dealing with him again. And suddenly, there's one more thing you can't do there. So I think that these bridges, what's beautiful about a bridge concept, and this is a visual concept. Nobody wrote this down for me. I just pictured this Camelot thing. And you can cross a bridge from either side. But if you look at that bridge being common understanding and a working together relationship, it is very important that you say, I've got more space as to where I meet this person to solve this problem. And I have more time, because you always have more time than if you burn the bridge, because then you got to build a bridge. Now, these are interactive, but let's talk about this moat thing, okay? I pictured a moat. I think that basically a moat told me that these were waters, they were protective waters, and if they were around me or the company I worked for, then we would be safer. And the way you fill this is by your thoughtfulness, the way you do those assignments, the way you're considerate in how you get to a solution. You're asking about them and their family and getting to know a person, and it maps right into a fantastic book. Stephen Covey wrote a lot of them, but this one's best. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. By 2003, he'd sold 10 million copies of this book. So he talks about a high emotional bank account with a person. Well, we know what a bank account is. Money in, money out, money up, money down. Well, this is an emotional one with a person with whom you want to have a relationship. This thing, it works. It works at home. And basically, it is an account where your integrity, your credibility, and the actions emanating from you for that person build up an emotional bank account. Well, if you've got a great bank account with the person, then when you have to go do this, think about how much better off you'll be to solve this problem together. If you don't have one yet, then go back to the bridge concept and figure out how to make your first really great high emotional deposit. If you got a negative one by being a jerk just once, it's not a good day, okay? So one more Covey word. Here's this great term, seek to understand and then to be understood.
Fantastic. So when you're talking about the idea of building bridges and filling the moat, it sounds like a huge component of that would have to be the ability. It sounds like a huge component of that would have to be communicating well. So can you talk a little bit about the importance of communication?
That's a great question. communications are a really big part of everything you do, and darn, it's complicated too. I think that what's interesting is it's not a skill. We have great instructors in communication here at Marshall, but it's not a skill. It's a skill and then an art. And until you get to the art level, which means you have some breadth and depth in your soul about how you want to do that. And you can be the best accountant in the world, and basically, but if you don't know how to communicate, then you're not the best accountant in the world. You're the most skilled accountant in the world. If you want to be the best, then your communication skills help you with the senior partners. They help you with your associates because they're really important to you. They help you with support staff, and it's really, let's figure that one out real soon and real early, because you want to do a great job there. And so I think that communication has, it has three parts. First, you want to have integrity. You want to merit their trust. And I know that you will do that. The second one's even harder. You want to listen and hear them in a way that isn't just, yeah, I heard. He wants this, he wants this, he wants this. What you're really trying to listen for, and you're putting yourself in their shoes again, is there may be an emotional content. This isn't just for women. There may be an emotional content to what is being said, and you're trying to sit and stand in his shoes or her shoes and say, because for some reason, whatever that is, until you can get to that and understand, you can't get to the third piece, which is really easy, theoretically, and that is, that's basically the meat, the content, the reason, the logic. And so everyone jumps for the logic, and those two first pieces are critical. I guess Covey's coming back here, seek to understand and then be understood. He just keeps coming in. But you can tell that walking in someone else's shoes is really, really good for what you do in life.
Well, we're going to wrap things up here. This is a series about leadership, hence passing the leadership baton. So I'd like to close by asking you, how does leadership fit into your definition of success?
You already know, but leadership is an opportunity that you have multiple times a day and hundreds of thousands of times a week. And if you're not taking those opportunities, basically, if you're sitting there saying, well, I can't get Holland to do that because they haven't made me student in charge of Holland, and therefore nobody will circle around and do what I would tell them. And so it's just so frustrating. Boy, you've lost a lot of life, and you've lost a lot of fun and a lot of meaning. And so it sounds like I read a lot of books. Yeah, I probably read a lot of books, but about 15 or 20 of them just kind of are there with me. John C. Maxwell, and then the other author is Dornan, and I'm sure he's a nice guy, but John sells the books. So they wrote a book about becoming a person of influence. You'll really like that. It's a quick read. And all these books, you don't have to read the whole book. You can just kind of go through, and then you'll see something that catches your eye. But think about the fact that every time you navigate a project, every time you navigate something in the School of Business, every time you work in a group of people that you like, anytime you go and have fun, you have an opportunity by how you interact with people, what you do to contribute, how you listen to make sure that that other person at the table that's always pretty quiet is asked for their opinion. All those things make you become a person of influence. You may be so quiet, no one ever told me that, but you may be so quiet and so natural that you don't even know you're a person of influence. And yes, you're not only that, but you're a leader. So if you think that you've got to have the title and you need the power, I want power, Well, I don't, to me, that's not a leader. It's not a good leader. Basically, leaders that can gain followership, they have permission to lead, not power, permission, are often some of the best leaders. And they often become servant leaders in that they enable and support everybody being the very best they can be on the team. And that results in some great successes. And my definition of that was often the environment that you have, the company you're in, the department you're in, the whole value is greater than the sum of the parts. And that's the lift that a servant leader and a leader can give. And so basically, if you lead, become a person of influence, use that in a really good manner, you'll be asked to take a formal management and leadership role. And then you'll have power, but you won't have to use it. That's my definition of success.
Well, Phyllis, thank you so much for being here today. I think you shared some really valuable insight from a life of work that we can apply in our own lives, both personally and professionally. So again, thank you for being here. And this will conclude our second installment of the Passing the Leadership Baton Series presented by the Lewis College of Business. We thank you for watching.